Talmud Bavli Tractate Beitzah, page 10b, top of the page, with the words Aval Yom Tov Asur. However, on the festival it is prohibited, as sometimes those that seemed to him to be fat ones will be found to be thin, and thin ones will be found to be fat, and he will move an object that is not suitable for him, thereby transgressing the prohibition against moving muktzah objects. Alternatively, sometimes they will all be found to be thin, and he will leave them all, and he will come to neglect the rejoicing of the festival. If, however, one announces the day before, I will take this one and that one, he will indeed take only those fledglings, thereby enhancing his festival joy. Mishnah. If on the eve of a festival one designated black fledglings to be slaughtered, and on the following day found white ones in the dovecote rather than the birds he had designated, or if one designated white ones to be slaughtered and found black ones, or if one designated 2 fledglings to be slaughtered and found 3, they are prohibited, as these are the same fledglings he had designated earlier. If, however, one designated 3 to be slaughtered and found only 2, they are permitted, as it is presumed that one of the fledglings escaped. If one designated them inside the nest, and the next day he cannot find them there, and he found fledglings before the nest, they are prohibited, as they might be fledglings other than the ones he designated and left inside the nest. But if there are only those fledglings in the immediate vicinity, they are permitted, as it can be assumed that these are the ones he designated inside the nest. Gemara. The Gemara asks, but is it obvious that if one designated black ones to be slaughtered and found white ones, that they are not the same birds? Rabbah said, with what are we dealing here? The Mishnah is referring to a case where one designated both black and white ones to be slaughtered, and he arose and found black ones in the place where the white ones had been, and the white ones in the place of the black ones. Lest you say, these are those same fledglings, and they simply exchanged places, the Mishnah teaches us that this claim is not accepted. Instead, it is assumed that these ones that he designated have gone to the outside world, and these ones that he found are others that have come from elsewhere. The Gemara suggests, let us say that this Mishnah supports Rabbi Chanina. As Rabbi Chanina said, when resolving an uncertainty with regard to the identity of an item, if the majority indicates one ruling, but the item in question is proximate to a source that indicates otherwise, one follows the majority. In this case, the majority of fledglings are prohibited, as they were not designated for use on the festival. Consequently, the found fledglings are prohibited, despite the fact that the nearest fledglings are the designated ones. The Gemara refutes this suggestion. Perhaps it is as Abaye said with regard to a different issue. We are dealing with fledglings located on a ledge, a flat piece of wood protruding from the dovecote, around which many doves congregate. Here too, the Mishnah is referring to a ledge. Since other doves are regularly found there, the principle that one follows, the majority rather than the proximate source, does not apply, as both the majority of doves and the proximate source of doves are not the original ones, and therefore all the fledglings are prohibited. The Mishnah taught that if one designated 2 and found 3, they are prohibited. The Gemara explains, whichever way you look at this matter, the fledglings are prohibited. If these are others, they are others that have not been designated. And if they are not others, in other words, 2 of the fledglings that one designated are still there, nevertheless, there is one that he certainly did not designate that is mingled with them, which renders the others prohibited as well. The Mishnah taught that if one designated 3 and found 2, they are permitted. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for this? The Gemara explains that these are the same ones, and one of them has gone to the outside world, leaving 2 behind. The Gemara suggests, let us say, that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and not that of the rabbis, as is taught in Beitzah. If one places 100 dinars of tithe money in a safe place and found 200 there, it is assumed that this is non-sacred money and the second tithe money mingled together. Someone must have come and added another 100 to his tithe money. Therefore, he separates 1 dinar from the total and says, whatever part of this is the tithe is fine. Whatever part of it is non-tithe money, let it be used to redeem the tithe money. And this should be sanctified as tithe money in its place. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And the rabbis say it is all non-sacred money, since the money is not as he left it. The assumption is that someone took the original 100 dinars and he or someone else replaced it with 200 dinars of regular money. Conversely, if one placed 200 dinars and found 100 dinars, it is presumed that 100 dinars has been left in its place and is tithe money, and 100 dinars was removed. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and the rabbis say it is all non-sacred money. It is assumed that someone removed all the money, and the 100 dinars he found must have been placed there by someone else, and is not connected to the money he left. The halakha with regard to the case of fledglings apparently follows Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's opinion in the case of the second tithe money. The Gemara refutes this claim. Even if you say that the Mishnah isn't according to the opinion of the rabbis, it can be explained, as it was stated, with regard to this Mishnah, that Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar both say fledglings are different, since they typically hop from place to place. Therefore, it is possible that one of them escaped. By contrast, a money pouch cannot move of its own accord and must have been taken by someone. The Gemara asks, and why do I need to answer with regard to it, fledglings are different since they typically hop? But wasn't it stated with regard to that Mishnah, which deals with a money pouch? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar disagree over it. One of them said the dispute applies only to a case of 2 pouches, with 100 dinars in each pouch. However, if all the money was in a single pouch, everyone agrees that it is sacred, it is non-sacred money, as it is unlikely that only half the money was removed, while the other half was left in its place. And the other one of them said, the dispute applies only to one pouch, but with regard to 2 pouches, everyone agrees that 100 dinars of tithe is left, and 100 dinars has been removed. Granted, according to the one who said that the dispute deals with the case of 2 pouches. This is why it was necessary to answer here fledglings are different, since they typically hop. However, according to the one who says that the dispute involves a case of 1 pouch, but with regard to 2 pouches, everyone agrees that 100 dinars of tithe is left and 100 dinars has been removed. Now consider, why do I need to answer with regard to it that there is a difference between that halakha and the case of fledglings? You said that they do not disagree even with regard to 2 separate pouches, and therefore they certainly do not disagree in the case of fledglings. Rav Ashi said, here we are dealing with fledglings tied together and with money pouches tied together. In other words, when it is stated that the dispute applies to 1 pouch, this refers to 2 pouches that are tied together as well. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi and the rabbis disagree only with regard to 2 pouches that are entirely separate. Consequently, it is necessary to explain that there is a difference between pouches tied together and fledglings tied together. Fledglings can release themselves from each other, and therefore it is possible that only one of them escaped, whereas pouches cannot release themselves from each other. Therefore, it is evident that someone must have taken them, since they were tied together. He certainly took both of them. The Gemara asks, but if that is indeed the case, and it is obvious that someone came back and took the money, what is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi's reasoning? The Gemara explains, and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi could have said to you, pouches, too, sometimes